The trouble with Des is he is addicted to unhappiness.
But he'll never go mad, because he changes his mind.
Don't tell me what my reality is. I choose my own reality. I have a watch that keeps stopping. It needs these small batteries that are supposed to last 18 months, but mine keeps stopping after 6 months. It stopped again last week, so I decided I'd buy a new watch. I couldn't decide what type, a winder or a battery. This indecision went on for over a week. Being very undecided, I didn't really want to buy a new watch. On TV last night, there was a programme called Beyond Belief. Uri Geller was on it. He's a magician. I suppose an illusionist, and probably a very good psychologist. He told people to get out all their watches that had stopped working, so I got out the watch. He told people to hold the watch in one hand, and then after he had counted to 3, to shout out, "Go!"
He had a practice run, then he had the camera look into his eyes. He counted 1, 2, 3, and go! And lo and behold, my watch started to go. I really hadn't expected it to.
Sadly, it stopped after 3 hours.
The next day I tried it myself, doing all the things correctly like he said. It didn't work. Maybe he does have some power. Viewers were calling in saying that their watches had started going, but their keys were bending. One man who called in said that he was supposed to go out in half an hour, but that the keys to his car were bent. And also, a grandfather clock which had belonged to his father and his grandfather, which had never tick-tocked, had started to tick. Amazing stuff!
Something has happened that might change my outlook on life, or my perceptions of where I belong. I am moving to Brighton. Surprise, surprise! It all happened so quickly. I applied to Brighton Council for a home of some sort last year about this time. And after about 3 months, they offered me a bedsit. I turned it down. I wanted something equivalent at least to what I have now, a one-bedroom flat. I heard no more until January this year. They passed my details on to a housing association. And after a few weeks, they offered me this flat. I had to make a quick decision not to sing it. I accepted. Now, I am moving this Thursday to Brighton.
It's in a place called Whitehall, about 1.5 miles from the centre of Brighton. Not quite the urban Robinson Crusoe anymore. What am I now? I'm a Brightonian now. I still wander the streets, but it's so much more pleasant than that here. And I see so many, so cool Robinson Crusoes who don't realise what they become.
Brighton is a strange town full of contrasting types of people jumbled up and thrown together. The very poor, the very rich, gangsters, day trippers, the unemployed come down for the summer from the cities and possibly to get work overseas. Students from other countries to learn the language. Artists, writers, street performers, well-off showbiz people in there. And there's a big gay scene.
Graham Greene, the writer who lived in Brighton, called Brighton a fugitive town. There are mad people thrown out of asylums that are closing down. There's a big one at Haywards Heath, halfway between London and Brighton. The inmates have a choice when they leave, London or Brighton. Most opt for Brighton, for reasons I would think are obvious.
Anything you want in London, you can get here.
I have a lot of trouble with the concept of sod's law. It seems to keep happening to me. I was in the supermarket yesterday and I got to the checkout, stood in the queue, the one with the least people in it, standing there with their shopping, waiting. Suddenly I realised that the next queue was much smaller, so I changed into that queue, feeling chuffed that I was next to be checked out.
The person who had been in front of me was now a couple of people behind. I felt very pleased with myself and was congratulating myself on my ingenuity when suddenly there was a problem with the woman in front of me. She'd spilt some milk over the checkout desk, and they had to get assistance in case it affected the barcode. Also, to get another carton of milk, and to clean up the desk. I watched the other queue I was originally in shrink. And even the people that were behind me in that queue before were being checked out and walking out, I had to watch in dismay as my bus pulled out of the precinct outside, and which I could easily have caught if I stayed in the original queue instead. I watched helplessly while all this shambles was going on in front of me. There was another bus for half an hour.
Why me? I spoke to the woman on the till about it and also to the other customer concerned, and they seem to think it only ever happens to them. Seems a lot of people are afflicted with this sod's law problem, but I'm sure it only ever happens to me.
I felt very stressed out these last 3 weeks, trying to adjust to this strange town where anything goes and a sort of undercurrent of instability reigns. Everybody seems to be wanting to do their own thing.
I believe that Brighton has more disturbed people in relation to the size of the population than any other town in the country. People don't really listen to each other. They seem very excited and distracted. Is it because it's a holiday town with too many distractions? The sea, the beach, the pier, the pretty women, the men on the prowl for women, the buskers, the beach cafes with their coloured sunshades and ice cream adverts. A sense of permanent holiday and atmosphere. It distracts people. Even if you live here, you get sort of sucked into the excitement and get distracted.
In London, you have to be focused to get things done. In London, because it's so huge, you can have some anonymity. In Brighton, you're noticed. You can't really hide. I suppose in a way you get slotted as a certain type of person by what you wear or how you look.
People wear such odd clothes that don't really match. Could be sort of punk with a bit of hippie thrown in, or mohawk with a greatcoat, or collar and tie man with shorts of different colours, possibly even with a bowler hat.
By the way, my washing machine was leaking again and flooding the woman's kitchen below. That's what nearly tipped me over the edge. This is the second time in 2 weeks this has happened. The engineer fixed the first leak. I said to him, suppose it happens again.
It won't happen.
In fact, I asked him twice. He said it very arrogantly.
It won't happen.
He was the same engineer who came again yesterday to fix the leak again. I wanted to get out of the contract and just use the washerette down the road. And if you think I'm imagining this idea of Sod's Law, walking past the washerette yesterday, I noticed it had a notice in the window which said...
Sorry, closed.
All the washing machines are gone, only the bare concrete floor was left. I'm beginning to hate this place called Brighton. I have a feeling I would like to go into myself and not come out and say goodbye to the world. It sounds very attractive. I suppose lots of people do. They go mad and have to be committed. People might pity them, but it might be their choice. I'm not blaming anybody else for my own inadequacy and hopelessness.
Is it paranoia? I would call Brighton Paranoia City. A friend of mine, Dr. Peter Chadwick, sent me a copy of his new book that's just come out, Understanding Paranoia. That's how I came to this conclusion about Brighton. It's also made me more aware of my own paranoia at times in Brighton. Like the other day, when I was approaching the bus stop, I turned round to see if there was a bus due, and a man said,
It weren't you.
and I thought he was saying, "Is this a Jew?" referring to me. As it so happens, I am half Jewish. A bus Jew could sound like Jew. My mind, when I had left the flat, was preoccupied with concerns about how I look, and the fact that I look quite Jewish.
Brighton, a pretense and frivolity, hide an undercurrent of despair and chaos, which I don't want to be a part of. This reminds me of a passage from Hermann Hesse, a book titled Steppenwolf and written 70 years ago.
My regret is for the present day, and for all the countless hours and days that I lost in mere passivity that brought me nothing. Not even the shocks of awakening.
But thank God there were exceptions. There were now and then, though rarely, the hours that brought the welcome shock, pulled down the walls and brought me back again from my wanderings to the living heart of the world.
Sadly, and yet deeply moved, I set myself to recall the last of these experiences. It was at a concert of lovely old music. After 2 or 3 notes of the piano, the door opened all of a sudden to the other world. I sped through heaven and saw God at his work. I suffered holy pains. I dropped all my defences and was afraid of nothing in the world. I accepted all things, and to all things I gave up my heart. It didn't last very long, a quarter of an hour perhaps, but it returned to me in a dream at night. And since, through all the barren days, I caught a glimpse of it now and then. Sometimes, for a minute or two, I saw it clearly, threading my life like a divine golden track.
But nearly always it was blurred in dirt and dust. But then again it gleamed out in golden sparks, as though never to be lost again. And yet was soon
Quite lost.
once more. Once it happened that as I lay awake at night, I suddenly spoke in verses. Verses so beautiful and strange that I have not ventured to think of writing them down. And in the morning they vanished. And yet they lay hidden within me, like the hard kernel of an old brittle husk.
Ah, how hard it is to find this track of the divine in the midst of this life that we lead. In this besotted humdrum age of spiritual blindness. How could I fail to be a lone wolf, an uncouth hermit, when I do not share one of its joys, nor understand one of its pleasures? I am in truth the Steppenwolf that I often call myself, the beast astray, who finds neither home, nor joy, nor nourishment in a world that is strange and incomprehensible to him.
I am the urban Robinson Crusoe, who walks the streets of Brighton, like the invisible man, avoiding the cafes, discos, beach bars with the bang, bang, bang of rap music blaring out, the day trippers and holiday makers' exuberance and sense of complete letting go and a complete distraction of their worries.